Hello everyone. Thank you all for watching the video. Wishing you all good health and peace. The dawn crept over the mountains, its light a soft whisper, threading through mist that draped the hills like a veil over unspoken wounds. Ly Tieu Ca stirred, her breath faint in the winter's chill, the air sharp with the frost of northern Vietnam. Roosters crowed, their calls slicing the hush of a world yet to wake, and she stepped onto the packed dirt of their bamboo house, its walls weathered by rain and time. She slung a basket over her shoulder, her hands roughened by years of toil, brushing the coarse weave, her heart trembling as if the day carried truths it might unveil. Beyond the yard, the path to her grandmother's cassava hill beckoned, its slopes 10 kilometers away, the roots a promise of coins and warmth for Han, her daughter, who was with her grandmother, her giggles a distant spark in the village below. Their home clung to a slope, a humble shelter of bamboo and thatch, cradled by the mountain's embrace. The yard was a patchwork of life, a vegetable garden where greens struggled through frost, a chicken coop alive with soft clucks, a small plot where herbs grew wild. Each morning Ly Tieu Ca tended the land, her hands steady as she pulled weeds or thought of Han, her small hands eager for the day's warmth. Today she walked the long trail to the cassava hill, her basket empty, her steps sure despite the cold that stung her cheeks. Sin, her husband, was at work, his motorbike's hum a faint memory, his past betrayal a wound that had hardened her heart. She'd learned of his affair before their marriage, and though he'd begged forgiveness, her trust remained a shard of glass, her resolve a vow to protect Han, with or without him. The mountain loomed, its silence vast, and she let the work hold her, a rhythm to drown the pain. The trail was steep, the air thick with the scent of pine and earth, the wind carrying whispers of frost. Ly Tieu Ca climbed, her hands brushing wildflowers, their petals frail against the cold. She reached the cassava hill, its plants tall, their leaves green, their roots heavy beneath the soil, some young and tender, others old and tough. Good for boiling, she murmured, her voice soft, a smile flickering as she dug a root, its length a promise for Han and her grandmother. She worked steadily, her hands deft, sorting the tender for soup, the tough for market, her basket filling with care to trim the old ends, lest they spoil. The hill hummed, the air thick with earth and frost, the mountain's shadow lengthening. She thought of Han, her small hands eager for the starchy flesh, her laughter a spark that lit the dimmest moments. She thought of Sin, his promises of change now shadowed by whispers of doubt, his work a flicker of hope she couldn't grasp. The sun climbed, its warmth a faint pulse through the clouds, casting pale threads across the hill. Ly Tieu Ca paused, her hands resting on the basket, her eyes tracing the valley below, where the stream glinted like a silver thread. A phone call broke her thoughts. Hung, his voice steady, a director overseeing road construction, his projects a lifeline for the village. Road 175's moving, he said, his words clipped. Check the site at 3. I'll call. She nodded, her voice calm, her heart wary, his presence a thread of support she couldn't yet trust. She thought of the market where she'd sell cassava, her voice calling, her coins heavy. She thought of Han, her small hands clutching a new shirt, warmth against the winter's bite. She thought of Sin, his betrayal a blade that cut deeper with each silent day, his recent work a spark she couldn't hold. The coins from the market would carry them, a path to a future unwritten, and she descended, her basket heavy, the trail slick with mud, the cold pressing against her skin. The market was a bustle, voices calling, the air thick with spice and smoke, the scent of grilled corn mingling with herbs. Ly Tieu Ca spread her mat, her cassava roots gleaming, some tender, others tough, her voice steady. Cassava 10,000 a kilo. Shirts 90 to 270,000. She called, her smile bright, her eyes scanning the crowd. Customers came, their hands sorting roots, their coins heavy, 10,000 for a kilo, 40,000 for 5, 50,000 for a shirt. She sold quickly, her voice mingling with the market's hum, her heart swelling at the thought of Han's smile. A woman bought cassava, her words kind, and Ly Tieu Ca nodded, her throat tight, the support a balm. For Han, she thought, her fingers brushing the coins, the market a lifeline in a world she'd face alone. A man paused, his eyes curious, his voice low. You're Tieu Ca, he said, his hands sorting roots. Heard about Sin's work. You're strong. She smiled, her heart catching, her voice soft. Just living, she said, and he nodded, his coins heavy, his words a spark of warmth in the cold. She stopped at her grandmother's house, her hands offering a tender root, its flesh starchy, its scent earthy. Han ran to her, her small hands eager, her chatter a spark. "Mama, food!" she called, and Ly Tieu Ca knelt, her smile warm, her fingers slicing the root, its texture soft against Han's cheeks. Her grandmother nodded, her eyes kind, her voice low. "He's working now," she said, her hands peeling greens, their scent sharp on the air. "Asin's trying." Ly Tieu Ca's throat tightened, her hand brushing Han's hair, her heart catching at the weight of her grandmother's hope. She thought of Asin, his hands steady at work, his past a wound she couldn't heal, his truth a shadow she couldn't see. She thought of Han, her laughter a spark that both anchored and unraveled her, a dream both fierce and frail. The afternoon deepened and Ly Tieu Ca walked to the construction site, her steps steady, the coins from the market heavy in her pocket. The site was a hum of life, its air thick with dust and diesel, the clatter of machines breaking rock for Road 175. Hung stood by a bulldozer, his voice steady as he directed workers, his eyes sharp. 10 machines, he said, his hands gesturing to the stones. "We'll clear it by Tet." She nodded, her basket heavy, her heart wary, his kindness a spark she couldn't trust. He saw her, his smile warm, his voice soft. "Tieu Ca," he said, his hands dusting his coat. "Come with Han. I'll drive you home." She hesitated, her throat tight, her voice low. "Thank you," she said, and he nodded, his car waiting, its warmth a refuge against the cold. The drive was quiet, the hills unfolding, their slopes dotted with cassava and pine. Han giggled, her small hands clutching a bear Hung had bought, its fur soft, its eyes bright. Ly Tieu Ca's heart caught, her fingers brushing a shirt he'd given, its fabric warm, a pair of shoes for her, a bottle of cream for Han's chapped cheeks. "You're kind," she said, her voice soft, her eyes wary. He smiled, his voice low. "Just helping," he said, and she nodded, her heart trembling, his presence a question she couldn't answer. They reached the village, its houses low, their roofs thatched, their yards alive with the clucks of chickens, the chatter of children. Han ran to the yard, her small hands eager, her chatter a spark. Ly Tieu Ca thanked Hung, her voice soft, her heart heavy with gratitude and doubt. The evening deepened, the hearth's glow casting shadows across the room, the bamboo walls softening in the light. Ly Tieu Ca fed Han, her small hands eager, her chatter a spark in the quiet. A motorbike's hum broke the stillness, and Asin appeared, his mother beside him, her face stern, her eyes sharp. "Tieu Ca," she called, her voice fierce, her hands empty. "We talk." Ly Tieu Ca froze, her spoon slipping, her heart a storm. "Talk?" she said, her eyes fierce, her voice low. "You chase me out, say I'm unfaithful?" Asin's mother stepped closer, her voice a blade, her eyes heavy. "I saw you," she said, her hands trembling, "with a man in a car. You left my son." Ly Tieu Ca's breath caught, her hands shaking, her voice steady. "Helped," she said, her eyes burning. "Hung helped me and Han. You think I'm like Asin?" Asin stood, his face pale, his eyes desperate. "Tieu Ca," he said, his voice breaking. "I work for us. No affair." But his mother cut in, her voice fierce, her words a wound. 50 million, she said, her eyes sharp. "For 2 buffalo, my loss when you married. Pay or Han's ours." Ly Tieu Ca's heart stopped, her eyes burning with tears she wouldn't shed, her voice calm. 3 days, she said, her hands shaking. "I'll find a way." Asin's mother nodded, her voice cold, her eyes heavy. 3 days, she said, and they turned, their motorbike idling, their words lost. Ly Tieu Ca stood, her hands steady, Han's laughter a spark in the quiet. She thought of Asin, his past betrayal, his promises of change now shadowed by his mother's doubt, his truth a shadow she couldn't see. She thought of Hung, his kindness a spark that both warmed and troubled her, his car a refuge that sparked this storm. She thought of Han, her small hands eager, her future a dream both fierce and frail, a child she couldn't lose. The night deepened, the hearth's glow fading, the bamboo walls softening in the dark. Ly Tieu Ca held Han, her small form curled on a mat, her breath soft, her laughter a memory that lingered. Her grandmother watched, her eyes kind but heavy, her voice low. "Men falter," she said, her hands slicing greens, their scent sharp on the air. "I raised your mother alone. You're stronger than this." Ly Tieu Ca nodded, her fingers tracing Han's hair, the softness cool against her skin. She thought of the market where she'd sold, her voice steady, the coins a vow of resilience. She thought of the hill where she dug, her hands steady, the cassava a promise of warmth for Han. She thought of a sin, his hands steady at work, his mother's demand a wound she couldn't heal, his doubt a shadow she couldn't forgive. She stepped outside, the air cool, the stars sharp against the dark, their light a map of questions without answers. The mountain loomed, its silence vast, the valley hidden beyond its folds, the stream's murmur a faint lullaby. She gazed down the path the sin had ridden, the dust untouched, her heart a fragile bridge between love and betrayal. She thought of their dreams, small but stubborn, like roots breaking stone, and of a sin, his regret a wound she couldn't heal, his mother's threat a shadow she couldn't escape. She thought of Hung, his aid a light that both warmed and troubled her, a role she couldn't name. She thought of Han, her daughter's future a dream both fierce and frail, and of herself, a woman who'd carried love through years of want, now standing on the edge of a truth that burned. Tomorrow she'd rise, climb the hill, tend the garden, feed Han, walk to market, her steps sure despite the weight. Han would laugh, chasing chicks or clutching a root, her voice a melody that softened the yard's edges. A sin might return, his hands empty, his eyes heavy with truths she couldn't hear. His mother might come, her demand a blade, her threat a storm she couldn't outrun. Hung might call, his plan a question, his kindness a spark she couldn't trust. The coins from the market would carry them, a path to a future unwritten, a chance to save Han from a shadow that loomed. The garden would yield, its greens a vow of resilience, and Han's laughter would light the dimmest days. But in her soul a question lingered, delicate as moonlight. Could she save Han alone, or would a sin's doubt and Hung's aid reshape her path? Somewhere in the valley's hush, their future waited, and here on the mountain, her family breathed, a fragile circle of love and pain, its edges softened by a sky too vast to promise forever.